talk about mechanics a little bit. Um, uh, this will be another one where you'll hear me talk, and then you'll hear Chris, and you'll wonder. Uh, yeah, we just talk and see things differently, and that's why I think we make a good team. And so anyway, I really work at trying to get all my guys to look like Carl. You know, we try to get real tall, hands cross the hips. You know, I want to see that hand 12 inches behind the butt. I want to see the foot high and in front of the body. So, you know, we try to look like Carl, and I know that professional coaches like Stuart McMillan would think this is the dumbest thing in the world. But, you know, I'm not dealing with guys that, you know, ran 9.73 at USC before I ever met him. You know, I'm talking, you know, I coach 14-year-olds. So I got this from Jonas Dodu, who hosted me over in England. I kind of like this. This is a nice little graphic of the foot being under the knee. And also, you know, just all good sprinters have a big femur separation there, you know, like 115 degrees or something. The difference between sprinting and jogging is oftentimes the split of the thighs and how high the knee comes up. So, you know, this is the position on the right is a position you'll never see a cross-country kid ever get into, which that'll be fun talking about distance a little bit later today as well. You know, more of the split, hand crossing the hips. Everything we do, whether we're doing A-skips or whatever, we're working at getting the foot out under the knee. For some reason, all my young kids want to skip and they want to do everything with their heel tucked underneath their hamstring. I don't understand that, but we try to split our thighs and everything we do. I learned this from Chris, and I think Chris learned it from Bosch, that if you bisect the angle, that the arrow should be out in front of the foot. This is interesting. I'm looking forward to having Chris talk to me about this. This is the second best sprinter in Illinois last year. He ran 10:46 as a junior. And as you can see, he's shown his spike plate to Jesus here. And that's a major flaw. That's huge backside mechanics. And the way that most coaches deal with this is just kind of yell as he's running a 10:46, no more backside, no more back, get your knees up. Or, they try to cue guys out of a lifelong habit. And usually this habit, by the way, any coach that is still in the 10-200s type of thing seems to get a lot of guys with backside mechanics. It's just like a sloppy sprint style. But these are my ideas about correcting a kid like this. This is what I do to kids with backside. First of all, I think sprinting is like a fast march. So we literally fast march. We instead of cueing them out of doing this, we try to reprogram the brain where we'll fast march. You cannot have backside mechanics when you're marching. And then we fast march over wickets that are about 3 feet. If that's not enough, you go 4, whatever. But once again, we're trying to get the brain to realize that the foot needs to hit and come right back up into a high knee position. And then we sprint over short wickets. 5 feet are not very far. So it's almost impossible to have backside mechanics over short wickets because you are like piston-like with your front leg. And then you progress to 6-foot wickets, which is our normal distance. And you must video it. And if you see that, that backside mechanics return, you got to pull the plug and go right back to fast marching. So you just rep it correctly until we don't learn things by talking about stuff. I learned that from Bobby Knight. We learn things by doing things over and over again. So yeah, if the backside returns, you guys get right back. Okay, so the only thing I would correct here, this is actually a pretty good shape to me for a 10-year-old, but I would like the foot out a little bit further out in front of the body. Like I say, everybody wants to tuck that heel up under their hamstring for some reason. I'd rather have it out. Here, of course, is what we just talked about. This is just, backside, showing your spike plate to the sky. And then here's the major collapse thing going on, where, you collapsing at the knee, collapsing at the hip. And, this is something that obviously is just not strong enough yet. And there's all kinds of stiffness stuff that you can do to get strong here. Now, this is kind of the opposite of collapse. This is about as rigid as anything I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite pictures I've taken of Marcellus. But I mean, that knee is really coming through. That knee is way past the knee. There's no collapse whatsoever. He was probably the most efficient and the most CNS-driven sprinter I've ever seen. So these are good shapes, much different than that. I got this from our good friend Ken Clark. The guy on the left has good stiffness, good efficiency, knees coming at touchdown way past the knee. And then you got the collapser in the middle. And then you got probably the ugliest picture I've ever seen on the right. Huge collapse in the frontal plane on that runner. That runner's not going to be very good. So I have a couple still frames, but I like that picture because he's wearing a white t-shirt and you could see some things. One thing is the hip coming up and the shoulder coming up. On the very next stride, you see this. This is something, like I had not really noticed before until I saw Marcellus Moore wear a white t-shirt. And I think I talked to Chris about it and he said, yeah, he had words for it. We'll talk to him about it. But I noticed that Bolt does similar things. And I have a feeling like the hip hike that Chris does here, the video, I'm not going to play the video because it'll be choppy, but you can see this video. This is one of the things I've seen Chris do for probably 10 years now. Like I say, so many of the things that Chris did 10 years from now is like old stuff, like he's always coming up with new. But this is something that survived forever and something you probably want to look up on YouTube. I got so many questions, Chris. What do you have to say about Marcellus?
Go back to the kid with the long leg out back.
Okay, good.
So I would need to see what happens when he hits the ground and how fast he brings that through. And so that's the problem with Stills, is that just may be his presentation. Like he may have this phenomenal ability to bring that leg through and fold it up really fast, because then it becomes an angular momentum thing that he has mastered. But
so you're saying that this isn't necessarily bad?
Well, I think generally speaking, I would not like that.
Right. Okay.
But I would need to see the other frames to see how that plans through. And I agree with you completely on, I like the mini hurdle progression, and I do the same distances, and I've always loved mini hurdles just because, like you, I don't get kids that ran 9.97 their senior year in high school and things like that.
Right.
I need to get my kids to look like they can sprint. And I think mini hurdles are the best way to get kids to look like they can sprint so they can hit the shapes that we're looking for. So stills are really hard for me. I really like I like to watch from the front because I like to see where the foot placement is in regards
you actually like front better than side, right?
Yeah, I do I watch everything from the front and the back, because I need to see where feet go and what happens. So if you go ahead to Bolt, so this is, I know we're off this side a little bit, but I like to see his toe off and where his foot is, where he's coming off of his foot. I like to see the hip hike here and the leg coming through. But really, if I'm dead on, I can watch right down the middle and see if you're crossing over. And I think that is one of the biggest issues that I have seen from the front. And I like to see that back heel is underneath the proper ear. And here is, this kid played Division I football, but that's bad for me. Again, you can see the difference. He's got the hip hike going. His ankle is loaded to go forward, where this person this heel is underneath the opposite ear. This heel is underneath the opposite ear. So really he's zigzagging back and forth. So he'll lean forward, he'll overextend arms, he'll find all different kinds of ways to move forward because he just lacks the lateral stability to put that foot underneath in the right place and get his foot to work properly.
Now, to me, this guy looks unfixable.
Oh no, it's easy to fix.
Yeah, see, that's what. And the number one fix?
Let me go to mini hurdles with arms overhead, just because it challenges that lateral chain. RPR helps quite a bit. And then going back to the hip hike drill, that's really why the hip hike drill was designed, was to work that, teach the ankle to become a spring and spring up so the hip moves and you can get that hip lock.
Is it more for the ankle and foot than it is for the glute med?
It's both.
So
you're learning to tie together so you end up looking like Bolt. And the Swiss ball either A, takes body weight off so you can find that position, or B, becomes unstable and now you get into a neural issue at that finished state of where you want to be. And so that's why that drill is great, because you're killing two birds with one stone.
And didn't you tell me once that great sprinters have incredible glute meds?
Yeah.
And there's not much in the weight room that works on glute meds, right?
Not really. Four-way hip if you do it properly, but most people do it wrong.
So the number one thing you can do for the glute med and your ankle toe off is that Swiss ball stuff.
That Swiss ball stuff in the weight room. Yeah.
Cool. Now, am I right that in the 10 years that I've been hanging out in your basement, that's one of the things that was been a common thread in the last 10 years?
Easily.
It's
a foundational piece.
Foundational piece. And I was thinking about that. What other foundational pieces do you have that has like survived for 10 years?
Mini hurdles.
Okay.
Running lines.
Obviously timing, flies.
Foot and ankle stuff. Those have all survived really well.
Ankle rocker you were like the king of the ankle rocker 10 years ago. And you still are?
I don't know if I'm the king of that, but I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, it's just as important now as it's ever been.
Yeah, because it's that ankle rocker that loads the spring in your foot. That shin has to come forward, and once that shin comes forward, it sets off the whole chain of tightening everything up. Your foot becomes a catapult. You go to your forefoot, it rolls you onto forefoot, and then you spring forward. And that's what actually gets your mass to go forward. So if you don't have that ankle rocker, you have to find another way to get your mass forward. So what's going to happen is the shin is going to move. So here is your foot, here is your shin. Foot hits, you're at 90. There has to be a movement forward to get your mass moving forward. If that locks at 90, you have to find another way to move your weight forward. And so what people will do is, throw arms, lean, wobble, crossover. I have a presentation, the 8 common errors that come when you don't have ankle rocker. And really it deals with just about every ugly running form that you see. So that I think without learning to make the feet and ankle work properly, you're going to have a hard time. And what did we do when we did the Ken Clark research, when Marcellus and everyone showed up?
Yep.
Everyone commented on, and remember, Marcellus wasn't the fastest person there. We had that one guy from the Big Ten who ran 10.2. And what did we say about those two? Their stiffness in their lower leg was just phenomenal.
Unbelievable. I mean, there's Marcellus had zero leakage.
None.
In any joint. And I wish people could hear him run past, like our indoor track is real hard. And when he would run past me it's as loud as a drum. It was literally like fireworks. It was scary. The percussion that was like, I mean, it was unlike anything I've ever heard.